Greetings friends. Thanks for stopping by for a visit. If you enjoy the video, please subscribe.
I never planned to post this. Hell, I still don't really know what to make of it. But people keep asking, and I figure if I write it down, if I explain it the way it happened, maybe it stops rattling around in my head. Maybe it stops feeling like something I imagined. Last month I went kayaking in Ecuador with my son. We've been paddling together since he was a teenager, river trips, weekend lakes, anything that gets us outside and away from screens. He's 22 now, stronger than I ever was at that age, and I like seeing him move through the world with that quiet confidence young adults have. The trip was supposed to be simple, mangrove channels, then a few days deeper inland on an Amazon tributary. Beautiful country. Lush, alive, the kind of place that makes you remember how small you are in the best possible way. But something felt off. Not at first. Just little things. A shape on the riverbank that looked like someone waving. A voice, faint, almost swallowed by the wind, calling my name. I turned, and there was nothing. Mangrove roots. Leaves. Shadows shifting the way they always do. I told myself it was fatigue. Heat. Pareidolia, our brains finding patterns where none exist. Kayaking for hours can do that. I've been doing this long enough to know better than to jump to conclusions. Except it kept happening. Subtle at first. Then harder to ignore. I'm not claiming I met anything out of a horror story. I'm just saying something unsettled me. Something I can't quite explain. The first time it happened, I almost didn't mention it. We were paddling a mangrove channel on the coast of Ecuador, one of those narrow waterways where the roots curl down like skeletal fingers and the tide moves faster than you expect. Mangroves are strange places. Beautiful, sure, but strange. Light filters through the canopy in broken patches, and reflections on the water blur the line between what's above and what's below. My son was ahead of me by maybe 20 yards, cutting through the channel with that easy rhythm he's always had. He's been kayaking since he was a kid, hell, I taught him, and by now he moves like he belongs on the water. Strong strokes, calm posture. The kind of confidence that comes from years of doing something until it becomes second nature. I remember looking up at one point, just scanning the banks. Habit. Old paddlers do that, check the surroundings, take in the environment. Birds moving in the branches. A heron standing still as a statue. Nothing out of the ordinary. Except there was a shape on the bank. At first I thought it was my son. Not really him, just the outline of someone waving. A hand raised, slow and deliberate, like they were signaling me. It wasn't right, though. The posture was off. The proportions didn't quite match what I knew of him. Too tall. Too still. Hard to say. The mangroves were casting long shadows, and everything wavered with the movement of the water. I blinked. It was gone. Just roots. Branches. The usual tangle of vegetation. I slowed my paddle and squinted, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it had been a trick of the light. Maybe I'd seen a bird or a piece of driftwood and my brain filled in the blanks. Pareidolia, humans are wired to recognize faces and figures, even where none exist. I've read about it. Experienced it, too, in smaller ways. But this felt different. Not scary. Not yet. Just off. The channel was quiet. Too quiet. Mangroves aren't silent places, the wind moves through the leaves, insects buzz, water laps against the roots. That day, though, the usual background noise seemed muted, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. I glanced forward. My son was still there, paddling steadily. He turned and gave me a small wave. "You good, Dad?" I nodded automatically. "Yeah. Just looking around." He smiled and kept going. I told myself that was it. Case closed. Heat, fatigue, and the general weirdness of being in an unfamiliar environment. We'd been on the water for hours. Even experienced paddlers get tired. I'm in my 50s now, strong enough, but not what I used to be. Long trips remind you of that. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had watched me. Not in a dramatic way. No glowing eyes or looming figures. Nothing you'd put in a horror movie. It was subtler than that, like the air had shifted, like the channel itself had paused for a second and then resumed as if nothing happened. I paddled faster to catch up. The rest of the journey was uneventful. Birds. Water. The steady rhythm of our kayaks slicing through the channel. I chatted with my son about dinner plans and the next stretch of the trip. Normal stuff. I wanted normal. But every so often I found myself glancing at the banks. Just checking. Looking for the shape again. I didn't mention it to him at the time. What was I going to say? That I thought I saw something? That I didn't quite trust my eyes? He would have shrugged it off, and honestly, he would have been right to. There are rational explanations for moments like that. Reflections. Shadows. A brain tired from hours of sensory input. Mangroves are full of optical illusions. Roots look like limbs. Ripples distort shapes. Sunlight shifts in ways that trick your perception. I know all of that. And yet, when I think back on it, I can still picture the raised hand. Not clearly. Not like a memory you could photograph. More like the echo of an image. A suggestion. A question my brain asked and then refused to answer. I told myself it was nothing. And for a while, I believed it. By the time the second incident happened, we were deeper inland, far from the mangrove channels and coastal towns of Ecuador. This was the kind of water that feels older. An Amazon tributary where the river widens and bends, swallowing sound. No distant traffic. No signs of human life. Just green walls of forest and the steady push of the current. I'd told myself the first encounter in the mangroves was nothing. A trick of the light. Fatigue. A momentary misfire of perception. But I couldn't entirely forget it. That's the thing about experiences like that, you can rationalize them, file them away, and move on. Yet every so often they resurface. Not as full memories, but as questions. What did I actually see? Why did it feel wrong? The Amazon is overwhelming in its scale. Trees rise like columns, their canopies weaving together so tightly that sunlight arrives in fragments. The air is thick with humidity and the constant hum of insects. Sounds echo strangely. A bird call might seem close, then distant, then close again. We were paddling that afternoon when I heard it. A voice. Not loud. Not urgent. Just, there. I froze mid-stroke. It sounded like my son. Not exactly. That's the problem with memories, details blur the instant you try to grasp them. It had the cadence of his voice, though. The familiar rhythm of someone calling my name. Dad? I turned. He was right there, 20 feet ahead, focused on the water. Paddling. No sign that he had spoken. I opened my mouth. Closed it. The words stuck. Did you say something? He glanced back, eyebrows knitting together. No. My stomach tightened. It should have been a simple explanation. Wind. Water. The echo of my own thoughts. Our brains are wired to find patterns, especially in ambiguous environments. A voice on the breeze can sound like a name. A rustling branch can feel intentional. I told myself that. I kept paddling. But the feeling lingered. Not fear. Not exactly. Unease. Like being watched. The tributary narrowed, trees leaning in closer. Roots knotted the banks, half submerged in dark water. I scanned the foliage, searching for movement, an animal, a bird, anything to explain the sensation. Something shifted among the branches. A shape. Human-like, but indistinct. Just a suggestion of presence. It was gone the moment I focused on it. Leaves. Shadows. The natural chaos of the forest. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I muttered under my breath. Okay. My son looked back. You good? I forced a smile. Yeah. Just spacing out. He nodded and continued ahead. I wanted to believe it was nothing. The Amazon plays tricks on the senses. Light bends in strange ways. Sound travels unpredictably. Even seasoned outdoorsmen can experience momentary disorientation. I've spent years in the wilderness, kayaking, hiking, camping. I understand the way environments shape perception. But this felt different. Not supernatural. I'm not claiming that. Just, unresolved. A moment where the world didn't quite behave as expected. Later, when we stopped for the night, I convinced myself it was over. Dinner by the river. Stars through gaps in the canopy. Normal conversation. I didn't mention the voice. I didn't mention the shape. What would I have said? That I heard something? That I saw something I couldn't explain? People would smile politely and move on. Or worse, encourage explanations I don't actually believe. I prefer the truth as I experienced it. I don't know what it was. I still don't. And maybe that's the point. The wilderness doesn't owe us answers. Sometimes it simply reminds us how small we are. How much we don't understand. How perception itself can falter. I went to Ecuador to paddle rivers and spend time with my son. I came back with stories I still struggle to tell.
Thanks for watching. If you want to hear more stories like these, please like and subscribe.